Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Today is Wednesday, January 5th, and God bless you, you're watching another episode of Engine Room, a podcast brought to you by TokenMetrics.com. Joining us today, we have Mr. Stephen Tuttle and Mr. Bill Noble. We are here to help you make sense of what's going on in the crazy world of cryptocurrency. In this episode, we've got Quentin Tarantino, Jamie Dimon, Walmart, and Bill, we got to start with some numbers pertaining to subway turnstile entries and the crash, well, not a crash, but a surplus of unused commercial real estate in New York. Talk to us about these numbers coming from Bianco Research.
Yes, so Jim Bianco, shout out to you. He helped me get one of my first influential jobs in the market, believe it or not, from the Market Technicians Association in Chicago, and he is now one of the leading researchers in the bond market. He's recently come out with some work saying commercial real estate occupancy in major cities is still between 20 and 30%. And New York City subway traffic collapsed 2 years ago, came back a little, and has recently collapsed again. So that was quite a mouthful. The reality is everybody got sick all at once. So we don't know how. Everyone says, nobody dies from Omicron. Okay, well, I'm not a doctor, but if everyone gets sick all at once, okay, this potentially puts the Fed rate hikes on hold, right? Because if no one's going to the office, if no one's going to restaurants, if no one's going out for X weeks or X months, that means no rate hikes, and that can be crypto positive.
Yes, and Bill, I have to say, you called this about 2 weeks ago, and 2 weeks ago I was not completely on board. I was actually of the opinion that the rates are happening no matter what. COVID, Omicron, probably not as bad, and it'll just drift away. Then I see those charts. We have one massive plummet in people that are actually going to work with their physical bodies. And then it goes back up a little for the next year. We start getting a trend where, okay, we're getting back to normal. People are going back. And then just another big drop from Omicron.
Yeah, I mean, the Piccadilly line in London, guys are sending me pictures of it empty. So, again, how hawkish can the Fed be? How can you crash the stock market when people are already suffering? Not to mention the fact that I just think crypto is a sign of hope. And on top of that, to finish the bloviate, people are going to work in the metaverse.
Well, yeah, speaking of metaverse, let's talk a little bit now about Walmart, because there's a video circulating today. It turns out this video is actually about 1.5 2 years old. That is basically Walmart's conception of what shopping in the metaverse will look like. And this debuted at South by Southwest some years ago, but it's quite the Twitter chatter going on about this video today. And so if you haven't seen this video, I can only really compare it to like the Matrix White Room, where they summon like this infinite wall of gun racks. That's basically what it's going to be for shopping in the metaverse, but for wine and produce. In the video, there's like a female avatar who helps you do your shopping, and even says things like, "Oh, your car is now completed. Your car service is now completed, and I've added the service charge to your total bill." This avatar even knows what you have in your refrigerator at home. In one part of the video, this person picks up a carton of milk and they say, "Oh, you've already got a carton of milk at home. Do you want to actually buy this, or do you want to put it back?" So spooky and helpful all at the same time. But we were talking before we recorded this about the real estate angle here. Sure, maybe there will be a metaverse app where you can pop into Walmart by loading a specific app. But Bill was talking about a real estate angle where Walmart maybe, potentially, depending on how this stuff shakes out, will have to buy land, virtual land, across multiple metaverses in order to actually bring this vision to life. Could you talk a little bit more about that, Bill?
Sure. So like in the days when the .com started, right? When the internet started, people were like, "Hey, we're brick and mortar. Do we have to get online? Like, PetSmart, Target, it's like, yeah, I think we better get online."
Mm-hmm.
Right. So they all developed websites, obviously. Now that is commonplace and obvious. With the metaverse, the question is, where are the Walmarts located? Is it on the Walmart app, right? Does Walmart make a metaverse for your phone? Or does Walmart buy land inside popular metaverses as a way to become cool? Maybe it isn't even called Walmart inside these other metaverses. It's like, Decentraland store, co-branding, right? So if you're going to build, if you think you're going to have to build, you used to have to get a domain name, right? Well, if you may have to buy land in the metaverse, or you may want to be there, okay, don't you have to have land? Now, land may not be affordable for me and you, but remember, Visa put a CryptoPunk on its balance sheet. Firms have put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. By the end of 2022, if you're in brick and mortar, how can you not have metaverse land of some variety on your balance sheet? Think about it.
Yeah. And another angle I would say about this is we seem to be sidestepping a couple steps as an overall global society on our path to virtualization. If you ask somebody 3 years ago what the future of shopping could look like, they would probably say Amazon Whole Foods, you walk in and then the cameras just keep track automatically of all the food that you get, right, and then you leave the store without talking to a clerk or anybody. We seem to be sidestepping that and going directly to 100% virtual.
Well, how do you get sales help? In that other world, which I agree was the right way to do it. It's like, do you get creeped out if you're passing a shopper that happens to not be wearing a mask? I don't know. So we're in this really weird world. I heard there's 2 more variants out there already. Giddy up, right?
Yeah. Well, on that, how do you get sales note help? I'm just thinking, I can't wait to shop Home Depot in the metaverse, because it seems like there's never anybody who's able to help you at Home Depot.
Right. And who knows, the person at Home Depot may be able to go back to your virtual house, which I would need, and show you how to fix your electric socket. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's,
Yeah, I mean...
it's a service industry play.
Sure. So Metaverse was certainly a narrative that took off late at the end of 2021, and it seems like it's going to be here to stay for 2022. But this seems like an important time to remind people that this notion isn't really new. So even though we have this big buzzy word metaverse floating around all over the crypto sector lately, this is not a crypto native idea. This is actually about 30 years old. So, public service announcement, crypto doesn't own the metaverse, but it certainly seems like they're the people who are most likely to build it and make it real. Moving right along, we got to talk about a certain Mr. Jamie Dimon and JP Morgan, who seems to be flip-flopping very slowly his position on Bitcoin. Stephen, what can you tell us about JP Morgan and blockchain? Do they love it or do they hate it today?
Well, today it seems, or as of last month when he said it, it seems Jamie Dimon is trolling the public a little bit, because I believe he said crypto has no inherent value in it.
He called it
which
fool's
is obvious. Gold. Yes, called it fool's gold. And I mean, crypto does not have earnings. So I see his argument there, but it's almost not applicable. There are no earnings in crypto. Now, in terms of JP Morgan getting involved in crypto, there are 2 lanes that they can use. They can use the technology, or they could use the investment side. Now, in terms of technology, they're already in that field. And on the investment side, I'm not sure how much you can actually invest in crypto through JP Morgan, but I do know that JP Morgan has fleets of researchers actively doing research on crypto at this very moment.
Yeah, I mean, when you're doing business at that level of the stratosphere, even if your leadership says this is bad and we don't like it, you better believe they are working on understanding it and making a plan on how to deal with it. So, what do we know about this Onyx thing we were talking about, Stephen? Allegedly, JP Morgan says this Onyx, a JP Morgan product, is the world's first blockchain-based platform for the exchange of value, information, and digital assets. That's demonstrably false. That's some marketing BS right there. But it's a pretty clear indication that they seem to be casually embracing blockchain.
Yeah, it comes down to the question: when these institutions, when nation states, when really big players get involved in crypto, do they build it themselves or do they utilize the already built decentralized technology?
Gotcha. So this is perhaps this is akin to, if you're going to buy coffee at McDonald's, are you going to use the Bitcoin blockchain, or are you going to use some special purpose-built retail-based blockchain? And in El Salvador, they're using the Lightning Network, for example. So who knows? We'll see. It's exciting to know that we've got people at that, like as I said, at that level of this kind of business, thinking about this stuff and building this kind of stuff. So at the opposite end, whereas Jamie Dimon says this is bad and I don't like it, while secretly developing products that make use of it. Bill, talk to us about Goldman Sachs and 100K Bitcoin.
Well, gradually, investment banks are all coming around to the idea that Bitcoin is going to be kind of an organic component of the foreign exchange market, right? The dollar versus the euro, the dollar versus the yen, the dollar versus Bitcoin, right? So they're slowly but surely covering it on the research side so they can slowly but surely enter on what I would call the security token side, the security settlement side, which Stephen talked about, right? You know, moving securities back and forth, avoiding getting disrupted by T0, which wants to cut into what they call prime brokerage, which is also related to the movement of securities. So again, you know, you start with research, right? Then you might move to trading, real estate, mergers and acquisitions, deal making. So by Goldman saying Bitcoin could go to 100K, what they're really saying is we're all eventually going to get involved in this heavily, right? That's how I read between the lines.
Yes, Bill, and I just want to clarify that I feel like these institutions such as JP Morgan really, really want to get into crypto in terms of the technology side as quickly as they can because it is instantaneous settlement.
Right.
I have absolutely no idea how much money they have on the sides waiting to be settled that could be invested, earning them yield if they are using crypto for that instant settlement. This is the real use case of crypto.
Right. And there's also the tokenization of everything, right? There's Polymath, Polymesh, which we kind of broke the story along with Dylan on that. And then there's an old favorite of mine, Raven Coin, that was up 20% the other day. That's like tokenizing assets. So
yeah, we got to get Bruce Fenton on the podcast. Shout out to Bruce, who was instrumental in developing Raven Coin. That's this casual project that is now worth $1 billion.
Yeah. I mean, this idea of, let's just say there's a real estate company in Asia that can't get rid of skyscrapers, or there's commercial real estate in the United States that needs to get sold, but maybe it gets sold in tiny increments, right? In other words, the tokenization of assets becomes a mechanism to enhance liquidity. And that's a perfect space for investment banks to jump into crypto rather than say, I didn't like Ethereum at 600, but I love it at 4,000. You know what I'm saying? It allows them an organic way to get involved, add value, and save face.
Great. So talking about this rising tide of where everybody is suddenly realizing, oh, this crypto thing, it's not going away. In November last year, it was none other than Pulp Fiction director Quentin Tarantino, who was going to start selling his original script for Pulp Fiction as an NFT. Miramax caught wind of this, and perhaps predictably, they were not so pleased about it. And there's a big old lawsuit about this thing. Quentin Tarantino wants to sell something that he wrote and theoretically that he owns the copyright on as an NFT for his own benefit, which seems, innocent enough. but he's being sued about it. Now the news story today, I'm checking out theblockcrypto.com. The news story today is that Quentin Tarantino is basically saying, "Cool lawsuit, bro. I'm going to go ahead and do this anyway." And he is working together with SCRT Labs, which is the company responsible for the Secret Network, which they privatize NFT metadata so that only the token viewer can view them. I don't know exactly what to think about this. It's kind of exciting, and I think Quentin Tarantino is being brave and maybe even a little bit stupid. But at any rate, I don't think Miramax can stop this. I mean, even if some judge says this will not pass, there's nothing actually stopping some unknown anonymous person who will never be known from actually tokenizing this script and actually putting it out for sale. This is uncensorable stuff, and uncensorable and Quentin Tarantino seem to go hand in hand. Those two terms there. Well, Stephen, Bill, what do we think of this? Is this? I think this is exciting. I love any guy who's kind of happy to give his finger to the system, and that seems to be quite a bit of what's happening here.
Well, I mean, Tarantino's got to be thrilled, right? Because he's got Miramax's lawyers paying for the PR and advertising for his NFT.
True that.
Right. So, I mean, Quentin's not stupid. And, if he loses the lawsuit, then he's probably got the Quentin Tarantino something NFT all queued up. So win or lose, he may win.
Yeah. Win or lose, it's a win. Yeah.
Right.
So as a way to stop him, in terms of the technology, it's impossible. But since that it is him releasing it, I suppose you could just go knock on his door and say, "Please don't release this NFT."
How is it technologically possible? I don't think it is. It might be. Legally possible.
I misspoke.
Go ahead.
I misspoke. It is technologically impossible to stop.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they could send him a 30-page cease and desist, but I don't think that's ever going to actually stop somebody from pushing the enter button and making this thing real.
And then further going along the line of NFTs, it seems at the current state of the NFT market, Ethereum is all the trust and all the value. NFTs are all about legitimacy and proving digital asset ownership. So it really matters what blockchain you are using for those NFTs. At the moment, the one of choice is definitely Ethereum. What could be the second blockchain, if there even is one, that gives equally legitimate NFTs? Because the other blockchains, Solana, Internet Computer, Avalanche, their NFTs are very minuscule compared to ETH.
Yeah. This is an interesting thing. So one of the most complicated classes I ever took at college was intellectual property law. You want to talk about, honestly, kind of a pain in the ass class for a guy who didn't want to end up becoming an IP lawyer. It was required as part of my program. Intellectual property law is about to change with this stuff, because now there's a question: who actually owns the copyright to Pulp Fiction, the script specifically? And Quentin Tarantino has the writing credit on that. So I don't know all the nitty gritty of how the laws work with Miramax owning copyright to the film, and maybe Quentin Tarantino owns the copyright to the script. But this is going to be a rising point of friction and pressure over the next year. Uncensorable technology. We can say and do whatever we want, and we just have to deal with the repercussions after the fact. Theoretically, 2022 is going to be a hell of a year, guys. Can't wait to see what happens.
For digital assets, you would think. Sorry, I just want to say one more point about the NFTs. For digital assets and copywriting, you would think the legitimacy would come directly from the creator. That is what NFTs do. So if Miramax sells the same NFT, it probably won't go for as much as if Quentin Tarantino sells an NFT, because he is the creator. People want to buy it from the creator, not from a masked organization.
Yeah, faceless corporation that, while they have certain notches in their belt for putting out cool movies, I think Quentin Tarantino as a brand is certainly going to resonate much more. Certainly he does with me. I assume that other people are also like me. Maybe that's misguided. but but yeah, I see what you're saying. Quentin Tarantino as an individual has more cachet, more artistic street cred than faceless organization who is perhaps best known for Harvey Weinstein right now.
Right.
And then also one final point I would like to, I think the audience would definitely appreciate this. What Bill said before this podcast about how metaverse real estate could go through its own bubble that we haven't even seen yet as corporations start to need to buy it. I mean, you hit it already earlier, but I think it's just such a unique idea that the real estate, the metaverse real estate, could be synonymous to domain names back in the early 2000s.
Right. In other words, with metaverse, you had the first move was Flow, right? It was the NBA selling footage of players that they owned.
Mm-hmm.
Players were like, oh, wow. Fine print in that contract caught up with me.
Yeah.
Second wave was like CryptoPunk and Bored Apes. That was kind of like your social flexing for high net worth individuals. And the third wave is going to be both power to the people, right? Artists, musicians being able to capture value. And then there's going to be this gigantic corporate, like we used to say legacy finance. Now we're going to say legacy everything getting involved. So.
Well, perfect, guys. I think that'll do it for this Wednesday episode of Engine Room. If you like what you're seeing here, if you like what you're hearing, subscribe to Token Metrics on YouTube, and you can subscribe to this podcast in audio format as well. We're everywhere you want to be: Spotify, Audible, Apple Podcasts. We do this 3 days a week, and we're glad to have you along for the ride. So may the price action always be on your side, and may the force be with you. We'll see you next time.